Hello, and welcome to the AstroEnergy Astrology Show podcast with Astrologer Shelley Overton. Welcome to the June 10th edition of the AstroEnergy Astrology Show podcast. My name is Shelley Overton. I'm an astrologer in Orlando, Florida, and I am happy to be here with you today. It's going to be pretty warm. It's 87 already here at 11 a.m., and so it's going to be kind of warm. And that's not even as high. I think 89, I don't know, somewhere maybe even 90s. But we've got a lot to talk about today. I even had so much that was coming in when I went for my walk this morning. I wrote it down. So I'm going to share with you off of my handy notes what I've got. So then I will show you what's going on. And I had it all queued up and now I don't have it. Okay, here we go. Excuse me if you heard me. Probably didn't hear me. Okay, mute button is a wonderful thing. The idea that Saturn is moving into Aquarius alongside Jupiter, and Jupiter is about expansion. Aquarius is not about money. So it is about people, the collective, a sense of detachment. Capricorn, of course, is all about money. Well, I shouldn't say it. That sounds a little blunt, but basically, money is the purview of Capricorn. It's a very strong motivating factor, the material world. So we just wrapped up the last 18 years of straight financial growth, and it ended as Saturn went into Aquarius, or at least it went down. So the idea that Mars is joining, and then I took a left turn. Okay, so let's just talk about that for a second. Yeah, that's a lot of stuff. So Pluto went into Sagittarius, and in the sign of Sagittarius, Pluto expanded a great deal in the real estate area. When Pluto went into Capricorn, it crashed all of that and everything came out, which again, we know Pluto is about what's hidden. It's about things that can be mysterious or kept to themselves. The energy of Pluto, which rules Scorpio, so it's Scorpio, Pluto synonymous. That energy is about looking deeper into something. It's about the psychological backstory, the hidden, the dark side of things. So when Pluto shifted signs out of the realm of Sagittarius, which can be about spirituality, religion, youthful childlike energy, which can also encompass children. It can be about sex. And so there are a lot of sinister things you can associate with those two connected. Then it went into Capricorn. Specifically in the financial arena, it crashed the housing market. And for good reason. There were a lot of bad things going on in the housing market. That was never really addressed. As it went into Capricorn, the energy was much more about the structure of things, moving forward with building. I mean, I've lived in Orlando. I've mentioned this before, but there's so much construction around the roads here in Orlando. Orlando is a Scorpio rising city, which I was rather surprised to find out, but that's also my rising sign. So I'm very much in a similar cycle as Orlando. So the construction was the focus, and that included houses. A lot of what happened wasn't really rectified. So when Jupiter joins Saturn in Aquarius at the end of the year, I really believe that we're going to see a realignment of what's going on with housing, with religion, with stories that are associated with what goes on in those religious arenas. And I think you know what I'm talking about. And then also education, travel. I think that Jupiter being associated with long distance travel and airlines, it's going to be really interesting because Jupiter wants to expand, wants to be fun and happy and positive and optimistic. He's just been in the sign and is currently in the sign retrograde of Capricorn, making him very responsible, making him restricted of energy. So he's not as free as he wants to be. When he hits Aquarius, he will get more erratic, hard to predict. He will expand the area of Aquarius because that's what the planets do. They delve into or do a deep dive into that realm. And so instead of, and I know I talk about them transiting through, but they don't just transit, they actually put on the sign like a coat and live that way. And so it's just really a time of expansion of Aquarian energy. So an expansion of science, expansion of I think of Sheldon in The Big Bang because he is just the quintessential Aquarian energy in modern day. Of course, Albert Einstein could be considered the quintessential Aquarian energy of past days, or even in politics, it could be Lincoln, or activists is Martin Luther King Jr. All of these people have strong Aquarius connections. So we are really going to see those kind of forward thinking energies become the norm. And Jupiter's only there for a year, but Saturn's there for 2.5. And then right as just after, or probably I'm guessing even as Saturn moves out of Aquarius, we will even more so be feeling Pluto's moving closer to the Aquarian energy. We already are now in some regard, but of course the planets go backwards, and that pulls back energy from the full commitment to the next sign, or to really embracing all of the ideology of the next energy. So as we see this retrograde, I guess there's a really interesting awakening I'm seeing with what's going on with the Black Lives Matter protests right now, because it was, this whole year, Aquarius is a very fast energy. This whole year seems like we go from slow, 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 and then it's a demarcation of energy where it just, this is it. This is the new future. There's no transition. There's no slow. And, people definitely in the Black Lives Matter push don't believe it was slow, or don't believe it was fast. It was very slow because it was hundreds of years. But there was a tipping point. And that's what we're seeing this year in tipping points. We get to the point where it's just not okay anymore. And I've been looking through a lot of material online and seeing different things that threads that I follow through social media around being more aware of the story of what's been going on, reading about the history of slavery, and finding out what exactly has been going on. And it's heartbreaking, but it's also very fascinating to awaken to all of this information. And I do think that there has been a lack of the information, even though it is out there if you seek some of it. But as we dive deeper into the whole energy of what our fellow human beings have been going through for hundreds of years, we see that things have happened that have been hidden, which is why now we have a call for the unfunding of police, because so much has been hidden. There was a law that said, well, I think it was a law. I don't think it was a rule. I'm pretty sure it was a law that said you can't ask what went on during some of these interactions with police. And they are starting to stop that particular rule or law so that we can see what's really been going on. And I think if you pay attention, if you're an empath like I am, these things are going on. I mean, there's so much that I knew when Trump went into office, and I just keep it to myself. I already know that he has really bad connections to people, really questionable connections. But you don't go saying that until now. When we get Jupiter into Aquarius, information, which is Aquarius's realm, will come out. And Jupiter likes to talk. So I can see the end of the year is going to be, I shouldn't even say Jupiter likes to talk. Jupiter likes to tell what it sees and say, hey, did you see this? This is really what happened. Because Jupiter rules Sagittarius. And in astrology, let me see if I can find it for you here. Hopefully this isn't backwards, but I think it might be, unfortunately. Yeah, unless I can flip the video and show you from the back of the computer, I probably can't. Okay. Anyway, so Sagittarius, of course, let's put it this way. It'll be upside down. But so on this side, Sagittarius in the first house puts Scorpio in the second. And that's the materiality. And also with Capricorn in the first, Sagittarius is in the second. So if you put Capricorn and all the planets in Capricorn in the first house, which here it doesn't show them, but they actually are, if you have an equal house system, which means every section is exactly the same in degrees, it shows kind of like this. This is all equal, but it divides it up mid-range. So you don't see the exact cusp being on the line, it goes above. But you can do a chart with an equal house system where they actually have all Capricorns here, all the Sagittarius is there, et cetera, et cetera. So when you have Capricorn, actually it would be opposite. Yeah, I can't do it that way. So let's do it this way. So Sagittarius on the cusp would be a Capricorn on the second, which is the materiality of Sagittarius. So it's the physicality of whatever the idea of the sign before would be. So Sagittarius's idea is religion and spiritual growth. Capricorn's would be the church. So Capricorn is about the physicality of money and material goods, and it will start to express in Aquarius. So Aquarius energy, while it is free from the material world, it actually expresses some of the ideas of Capricorn, some of the materiality when the planets move out of Capricorn into its second house, which would be Aquarius. So when that happens, it will be, Aquarius will color how our material world is and what we see in our material world. And that means that we're going to see what Capricorn's been up to and then have to overlay the Aquarian ideals upon what the Capricorn structure has defined. So as we've had a Republican president for 4 years, almost 3 years, going on 4 very long years, we will see this energy coming in stronger, especially with Saturn going into Aquarius again at the end of the year. Of course, Aquarius has Saturn in it right now. The moon is at 20 degrees of Aquarius. So yesterday we had a moon Saturn conjunct. So the emotional nurturing side of our nature, I know that's funny. This is what goes on with Aquarius moons. I get outside myself and think in the third person, which is a very clear expression of Aquarian energy. Aquarius is so aware on a quantum level. It doesn't experience life through just a single linear experience. It can see from multiple positions. So my chart is very lit up for Aquarian energy. I have my sun very close to Uranus, which is the ruler of Aquarius. And it's in the Aquarius house, the 11th house. So I have 4 Virgo planets in the Aquarius house, which make me just kind of very lit up with understanding of perspectives, which helps really a lot with my art and astrology, because it makes it very quantum in how I see it. I see it in multiple layers and kind of all over the place, which I really try hard to bring into a linear way of speaking for you so that you can understand how it works, but maybe not have to live in my brain like that. So it's very intuitive what happens when I'm thinking about astrology. I'll lay in bed and usually I mentioned this in the past, I'll lay there and today, it actually happened today when I was walking, which is good. But a lot of times Tuesday mornings, I'll lay in bed when I just wake up and all these ideas come into my head about relationships of planets and positions and what's going on in society. Today, like I said, I was out for a walk. I'm like, oh, there's a lot of stuff. I've got to write it down. So having the moon conjunct Saturn in Aquarius means that we see this home life energy, this nurturing energy from the third person. So we can detach from that living our lives as a nurturing person, as a motherly energy, or looking around the house. And now we are outside looking down on it going, wow, how can I make this different? How can I change and improve it? What's really going on? what is the clarity of the situation. And then Saturn is really the ruler of the opposite sign from moon sign. Moon rules Cancer and Saturn rules Capricorn. So the two together, they come together in understanding. And so we have a cooperation of a nurturing energy and a practicality of how are we going to make this happen in the sign of Aquarius. So you see we have layers. We have planets or lights, as the moon is a light. We have the moon, we have the sun, we have Saturn, we have all the planets, but here we have the moon and Saturn joining together in the sign of Aquarius. So we have basically the energy of Cancer, Capricorn, and Aquarius all together. What does that look like? It's like mixing paints and knowing how to paint a canvas with specific colors. Once you learn the energies, you can make a story out of them. And so we've got this energy saying, now we're going to look at the collective. It was a very strong week of becoming awake. And that is because we had a full moon eclipse in Sagittarius, spiritual seeking. We had Saturn in Aquarius, so the structure of things about the people. We had an approach of, well, first we had the moon, of course, the full moon in Sagittarius, went through the structure of Capricorn, talked to Jupiter, talked first to Pluto, then talked to Jupiter and understood the energy that was being expressed, which was expansion of a transition point. Jupiter's at 26 degrees of Capricorn. He's close to being on the way out. He's starting to feel the energy of Aquarius. And then he's like, wait, I've got to go back and I've got to go back over some of this energy. And as Saturn moves, Saturn was already in Aquarius, he moves back into Capricorn. He's gone through the realm, put on the coat of Aquarius and said, wow, this is really clear-minded. This gives me a new perspective. What can I go back over to understand better? Where is the area that I need to make some adjustments? Because that's what happens with retrograde. Any planet in retrograde is going to make adjustments. It's part of the forward, retrograde, forward process. So let me do it up here where you can see it. Forward, retrograde, forward. So Saturn goes back into Capricorn. He has all this awareness of what the people, because Aquarius is the people, Aquarius is the planet, everything that makes up this earth. It is the environment of the earth because it rules environment. It rules collective consciousness. So it's the people's mindset. It's the people themselves. It's the earth, the plants, the animals, the systems within the environment. So we're seeing this bubbling up of understanding, and with coronavirus, of course, I've mentioned that before, we're looking for solutions for coronavirus. And so that's another collective environmental understanding that we have to get our minds around, which I think when Saturn goes back into Aquarius, we will get closer to an answer for that, because it's about the science of it. It's about logic and quantum awareness. So it takes logic to the next step and expands it and adds reason to it. Okay, let's get back to the Mars-Neptune conjunction and see what I wrote about that. If I can find it. Okay, so Mars joining with Neptune in Pisces is about breaking down barriers. The police are representative of Mars. This indicates that when Mars moves into Aries, its own sign of aggression and the police, the energy will ramp up on this storyline. Since it's the last 6 months of the year that Mars will be in Aries, we are going to see heightened aggression. Definitely the police are the storyline, which interestingly, when Uranus was in Aries before he went into Taurus, the police were the central focus as well. And there were other events, kind of a different type of event. That was when school was really being attacked, and then the police were part of that storyline. And then now we have human rights since Saturn moved into Aquarius. Neptune, like I said, breaks down the ego, is really what Neptune's kind of purposes, because if you think about ego is the earthbound energy. Spirit is what Pisces and Neptune are in the realm. Like emotions are the voice of the spiritual realm in the energy of Pisces and Neptune. So as Mars is approaching Neptune, we see this breakdown of Mars, the police energy. So police departments, individual officers, all of that. I mean, I'm looking at this going, wow, they want to defund the police. And I'm going, how do they do that? Like, are they going to get rid of the police? What's going to go on with that? So I researched that, and they aren't just going to defund the police and let it go, and now we have, chaos. It's not like that. There is a process of understanding what's going on and trying to grow from it and learn and know what we can do. But what I understand the idea is we take money away from the idea of using police trained in assertive modalities and aggressive modalities and give money, like every situation where it's an emergency, unless it's, like somebody in an accident, even then you get the police going to it. Not every situation requires a police officer to deal with it. Some are more mental health issues, or where it's a territorial issue. It doesn't always have to be a situation where this person who is trained in control measures is the best option. So what they're trying to do is get different departments and agencies to be the ones that go to diffuse a situation. Say if there is, okay, I'll give an example. My uncle had Alzheimer's and he wandered away from the house. Instead of calling 911 for the police to come, and now, of course, they handle everything. So I'm sure there are some police who are trained with Alzheimer's patients, but really a mental health professional might be a better option to go and deal with the situation. Okay, now this man is at a point in his Alzheimer's where he needs more attention from the mental health community, or some type of social work. So that would be who gets called instead of the police. So, it's really more about really reevaluating our ideas on what the police are and who is responsible for what, and changing some of the more aggressive tactics that are used, things like that. So as Mars is in Pisces now and is currently 1 degree away from an exact conjunction, which means that it will be joining up this week on Saturday, the 13th at 10:13 a.m. Eastern, 7:13 a.m. Pacific, and 3 p.m. In England. And I say England because I do have a lot of English listeners, so thank you, all of you over in Europe and all over the world. I have people all over the world, literally. And and I do want to say, I'm going to interject here with myself. If you like what you're hearing and listening to, learning from what I have to tell you, please share the podcast. Please share the video and the just sound only, audio only podcast on SoundCloud, which is where I'm at now, so that other people can hear it and get something from it. And also, if you're watching the video, like and subscribe and share, because that really helps. So since this Mars in Aries is going to be the last 6 months of this year, like I said, the aggression and aggressive tendencies are going to come out, not just in the police, although they're going to be probably a huge focus of this energy, but it will also be focused male energy and also the masculine side of our own natures. I know when Mars hits certain points in my chart, it absolutely makes me feel more agitated. I do feel more locked into the energy of aggression and irritation with people. So be aware that it doesn't matter what gender you are or what your experience is. That way you're going to feel this energy. The energy of the retrograde gives us a clarity to find out what we really want from the police and male energy that is triggered at this time. When he goes direct, it will be a new direction. So entering into Aries, we get that roughly every couple years, because it takes a couple years for Mars to go all the way around the signs. And so, he's lasting a lot longer than normal. Normally he would only be there a couple months, but because of the retrograde, he's going to be there, like I said, 6 months. It's a long time. So we'll probably be really tired of this energy by the time he leaves, because it's also going to create more fire energy in the world. That can mean more brush fires, more fires in general, and hot weather, heat. So we've got when Aries goes direct and we find a new direction, and then we can have, well, probably won't have as much dialogue until Mars gets to Gemini, which is going to be next year. But that could be as early as March of next year. And March is Sun in Aries. So we're going to have this story kind of follow us as the planets keep going into the Aries energy. Remember, Aries is also, I'll tell you everything Aries is: guns, blood, aggression, assertiveness, ambition, drive. We look to Mars to find out where a person's drive is to do their Saturn. The Saturn is life purpose. Mars is your drive. It's salesmanship. It can be self-promotion. It's your sense of self in this plane. So it's your ego. And the sun is also your ego, but Aries rules the first house, which is ego as well in the zodiac. Pisces energy moving into Aries, which will happen a while down the road. I mean, it's probably not before the next decade's over. I have to look it up. I have to look it up through my online ephemeris. I don't have my nice thick ephemeris book. Who knows where that ended up in so many moves, but it's okay. Let's see. Probably, yeah, close to another decade, 8 years, somewhere in there, 8 to 10 years. And then Pisces energy will end with Mars or Neptune going into, it won't end. There will be other planets there, but it will move into Aries. And that means that now there's going to be more of an aggressive ability to see what's going on in the oceans. And the action will be taken towards clearing up the oceans or finding out what to do to get heat from the ocean, which will be really awesome if we can harness energy from the ocean. And then the ocean's probably going to heat up in the sign of Aries. Yeah, I mean, that could really be a push towards melting all of the glaciers and the polar ice caps and things like that. But we will be fighting for our sense of self when Neptune goes into Aries, because Neptune, again, wants us to see the collective. If we're feeling agitated when Neptune goes into Aries, it's going to be because we all have this collective energy, and we'll be much more aware of how everyone is affected in that regard. So, yeah. Too much? Is that too much? We're going to go over some of the current aspects and planets right now, and then I'll wrap it up. But here in Orlando, we're in Leo rising. We've got Mercury at 12 degrees of Cancer, the North Node at 29 Gemini, Sun at 20 Gemini. Venus is at 9 Gemini retrograde, and Uranus at 9 degrees, a lot of 9 degrees, 29, 9, 9. Uranus is at 9 degrees of Taurus, 19 Mars in Pisces, 20 Neptune in Pisces, Moon at 20 in Aquarius, Saturn's at 1 degree Aquarius, Jupiter at 26 retrograde in Capricorn, Pluto at 24 retrograde in Capricorn, and then the South Node at 29 in Sagittarius. So again, the nodes in Sagittarius and Gemini, we are looking at education and learning and growth. We've got Mercury at 12 in Cancer, which is sextile to Uranus, and that is a very strong energy of money and security going on right now. So our thoughts are about having security in the home. I was out yesterday, there were a lot of people out, and it occurred to me that we're all kind of going through the same energy. Coronavirus is not done, and because Mars is almost at Neptune, the virus, again, Pisces is hidden. So the virus is still out there working, and Mars is very assertive, very aggressive. I was reading numbers today that as it relates to past, in like archival vintage way back events, I think the Spanish flu was like almost half of the people who were affected by the Spanish flu died compared to now. We've got 4 times the amount of the regular flu versus how many are dying from this flu. So it's 4 times. It actually is 4.3 or 8 or something like this. It's even above 4 times, excuse me, 4 times as much. So, it's still out there. And Mars joining Neptune, it's more out there and aggressive now than it was before, but we don't see it because all these planets going back into Capricorn want things to be normal, want things to be traditional in the way we knew them. So I personally am a bit torn because I'm wanting to go out and do more things and be like out in the world in my career. And I know that if I follow that, it could have repercussions later on in the year. So I'm trying to be really balanced about how I do things and see things with what's going on with the virus right now, because we should not stop wearing masks. And it's quite honestly, from my perspective, you're saying that you care about another person's life when you wear a mask as well as yours. You are protecting yourself from breathing what's in the air, but you're also protecting other people from all the stuff that you put out. And I was also researching, so I do a lot of research, Scorpio rising, that when we sneeze, the droplets and things that are in the droplets go out 120 miles an hour, which means in a restaurant, they can absolutely make it to the other side of the restaurant by the time you're done eating. And when we cough, they're 50 miles an hour. When we breathe, it's a lot slower, and you can, per se, affect people in your immediate environment. I was out at a restaurant with my family last Sunday, and they normally have the little booths with an open top, but they put wood barriers behind most of the booths. And so that, well, I say most because ours didn't have one to the room. There was none to the open room, but the rest in between people had the barrier. So the barrier will help keep just regular breathing when you go to eat. It'll help keep that germ energy to the table. But, there's a lot we still don't know. And I admit that I don't know everything about it. I'm learning every day, and it changes every day. There isn't just one thing that you can, get a virus vaccination for currently, as far as I know. It's very slippery and fickle. So you don't know how it's going to end up coming out. It is a bit like, that unknown thing that's lurking that we don't know yet, but we will know. Mars going into Aries can help us understand, because Mars comes out of the fog and goes out into the fire. And when it's more out in the open, when it's more prevalent, we will see the actual numbers. Right now, they've been hiding numbers. I know that's true in Florida, and I've heard it's true in other places. So we don't always know what's going on with it. We've got inconjunct between Uranus and Venus right now, to the degree, both at 9 degrees. And so there's going to be friction and a lack of understanding on some level, that we're going to want things that are more communicated, which is Venus in Gemini. She wants to communicate. That's what she does, but she's retrograde. So her voice is being tamped down on some level, and she's maybe been given lip service or is giving lip service. So find out the people in your life who may be women that aren't necessarily telling you the truth completely. Uranus in Taurus is also a very quick moving energy of communication and understanding. But in Taurus, I should say, Uranus itself is that way. Taurus is about bringing the energy down slower so we can understand it. So Uranus and Taurus will be a time of really ramping up understanding for people who need things to be explained longer and take more time to process and really integrate that energy and information. And it will bring Taurus up to the vibration, and Uranus will come down a little bit and try and settle and ground some of the electrical vibration and bring things more into the material world that may have seemed difficult to understand out there in concept. So much stuff I could talk about, but I'm running out of time here. And I just want to say that if you want a reading, please do look me up at angeliczodiac.com. I really do like looking at charts, and you get a actual recording when I do it to listen to over again. So the information isn't just given once and then what, that was too much. You can actually listen over and over. And so you can have it for a long time. That's the podcast for today. I want to say thank you to everybody who has taken the effort to find me. I know I'm not on Blog Talk Radio right now, and I'm not sure if I'm going back, and I'm likely not going back, but I am considering using it so people can find me again. I've lost a lot of listeners because I moved, and I guess people haven't sought me out online, but please do seek out and share so other people can find me. And take care of you, and I'll see you again next week. Bye.
You have been listening to the AstroEnergy Astrology Show. If you would like to get a private reading with Shelley, please contact her through angeliczodiac.com or at so@angeliczodiac.com. You can arrange a reading through the Angelic Zodiac page at facebook.com as well. Check out Angelic Zodiac on Instagram for up-to-date information on events, discounts, blogs and planetary transits at Angelic Zodiac 1 on Instagram. If you would like to see Shelley's art, shelleyoverton.com, or for astrology art, go to astroart.net. Music provided by Kevin MacLeod at incompatech.com. Other music will be credited within the show. Advice given in the program is intended for entertainment purposes only. Join us here next week for more of the AstroEnergy Astrology Show podcast. You can find us on iTunes and Google Play, and where podcasts are accessed.